welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl.
Hey, I met you. You are not cool.
With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick.
I am the smart. I am the smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
And Josh Adams.
Stick around.
Visit us at IHateCritics.net. We're also on Facebook. Our Twitter handle is CriticsPod. It's also our Instagram handle. There you can check out our top fives, watch trailers, and interact with Jason and Cousin Jeff. And interact with us as well. Sean's movie reviews are there. They're also up. If you go to IHateCritics.net now, there's a bunch of different tabs there. All of Sean's reviews are linked there. My list of every movie I've seen in 2018 is there. It's not nearly as interesting, but it's there. And as well as the podcast and other things. And if Josh, whenever he writes something, it's there as well. Patreon, if you want to be a Patreon supporter, that's the best way to help out the podcast. IHateCritics.net/Patreon. We just released we're going to, if we haven't already, released our first bonus Patreon episode, which you can get at patreon.com. You have to be a subscriber to listen to it, or you can go to Bandcamp. I will post a link of it on Facebook and probably talk about it more next week once I have it posted on Bandcamp and I have a link. But that's a bonus episode where we talk about the Greasy Strangler and we play a lot of Flickchart. And then we take the Greasy Strangler and put it up against other movies. And then for some odd reason, we take Brokeback Mountain and do the same. I don't remember how we got there, but we did.
Because there were a number of movies underneath it that we needed to move up because it didn't seem right.
Yeah. But it was a fun. I don't know. I'm curious what Jason thinks of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because we had an experience watching that movie. But yeah, it is a bonus episode that our Patreon supporters are going to get, and they're also going to get to help kind of shape these episodes in the future, provided we can watch the movies. So yeah, that's finally getting started. We started talking about the book again. Hopefully that gets moving forward this year. I'm not that far away from getting video going. I'm just kind of rearranging the basement here and trying to figure out how I want to do it, or how we want to do it. And so there's a lot of things in the pipe, whatever it's called. I don't know, in the canon, in the I Hate Critics, Everyone's a Critic canon. That's coming down the way. And your help, you really help us out there. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. If you listen to the show, please go to iTunes and subscribe, and then rate and review the show. We'll read your review on the air.
Is it iTunes or Apple Podcast?
Both.
Okay.
On your phone, it's Apple Podcasts. I have iTunes on my Mac, which I guess people are buying less computers, but you can get to it on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. And Google Play doesn't do reviews as far as I can tell. So if anybody knows that they do, let me know, and I'll go look for those and read them on the air. But we're number 5 on the movie review charts, and it'd be nice to go back up to 3 or 1, whatever. There's not really any news other than what we're going to get to kind of organically in the discussion of the movies. And we didn't watch any trailers because we were watching The Greasy Strangler.
You guys did. That's another podcast.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert for the bonus episode. Don't get mad, Jason. He watched part of it. But Black Panther, the big movie that's out right now, and it's going to be the majority of the show.
Yeah. Black Panther is, of course, starring Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. He is now the king of Wakanda, the country that his father was the king of until, of course, the events of Civil War, in which his father was killed. He's now returned to Wakanda to assume the throne, and this is just a series of really awesome scenes to start this movie. We're talking about they open up with him battling some terrorists so he can retrieve his friend Nakia, Lupita Nyong'o, who has infiltrated this group and is Wakanda's top spy, because apparently T'Challa doesn't know anybody who's not a badass, and which is awesome. He's going back and he's going to assume the throne, and this is an incredible scene. This is basically, it starts off with him just having to renounce the powers of the Black Panther and then fight, which is so cool. And he's going to fight to keep the throne, and it's a really great scene. And there's really just a number of great scenes throughout this tremendous movie. I love this movie like I love Wonder Woman. Like, that's how good this movie is. It's got a number of really fantastic scenes, incredible characters. This is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I really found a hard time like trying to find fault with it. Like, there's maybe a scene where maybe the CGI is a little rubbery. Other than that, I really didn't find anything I could really find fault with this movie. And I was really, it's hard to write just straight praise when you're writing a review, but that's kind of what I had to do, because this movie is just that good. And on top of being just that good with Ryan Coogler, the director of Fruitvale Station and Creed, this movie is also carrying an extra burden of being this rare movie with a mostly black cast and basically carrying the weight of black film history on its shoulders, being what it is. I mean, obviously there have been movies in the past with all black casts, but I mean, there's something about this one that's just so much more important and so much bigger because it is a mainstream blockbuster. It's a big-time comic book adventure movie that for years so many people in Hollywood believed that a black cast couldn't carry a movie like this. And boy, did they ever carry it, and carry it huge. $220 million over the 4-day opening, the 5th highest opening gross of all time. It's carrying that weight, and it's a great four quadrant blockbuster on top of being just a terrific movie. There's so many great setups. It's got a great complexity to it, great humor. They set up all these wonderful conflicts that are very thoughtful. The idea of Wakanda hiding itself away from the rest of the world versus sharing what it has. There's so many. I don't know how deep we want to get into spoilers on this, but there's just so many questions that raises. And I love the way that they address that, especially with the character of Killmonger, the bad guy in the movie. Michael B. Jordan is he's got a lot to say about that. He's a lost member of the tribe who is returning. He's an American, so he's a real outsider in this group. And he's got a lot of big opinions about how vibranium and all the technology created by T'Challa's sister specifically should be used around the world. It's incredibly smart. And just, I mean, again, I can sit here and praise it all day. That's how much I love this movie.
It's really fantastic, isn't it? It's not just the fact that it's well choreographed. It looks great and is powerful, but it's aggressive as well. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger specifically, of all of the villains throughout this particular Marvel Cinematic Universe, he is by far the most complex and most powerful. And not meaning he has the most special powers because somebody's carrying like power axes and someone's an alien and stuff like that. Of course not. What I mean by this is I was more interested in his character than any other villain, and that includes Loki. Talking about a guy that he brings such an aggressiveness to a particular scene that I can't say because it is something that happens in the film that's sort of a spoiler. But the way that he's talking there, it seems to mirror thoughts of society as well. That he's saying, all right, this is what we've got. This is what we need to do with it. And I'm tired of this particular feeling, and this is what needs to happen now. And I felt a very powerful, it was powerful, that particular moment. And I thought that he was not speaking just for Eric Killmonger in that scene, but he was speaking for a larger personage. And that's great, because it's in a mainstream blockbuster Marvel film released by Disney. And it's in your face, and it's not afraid of saying that. He's a villain, yes, but what he's saying isn't necessarily the wrong thing, and that's why this villain makes the most sense. Usually you have villains that their motives are sort of weird. Like, why would you want to destroy everything? That leaves you with nothing. Okay, he wants control and power for the right reasons in his head, and he's not conflicted about it, and he's also not necessarily wrong in a way. It makes you ask the question, does he have the right idea? he might, because there's a natural order to the way of things, and well, it sure seems like the white people did that, so why wouldn't he want to do the same thing?
Well, and the movie is smart enough that even T'Challa has to see his point.
Yep.
And that's really but again, the character of T'Challa, as played by Chadwick Boseman, is such a smart character and such a well put together character, because he doesn't have the freedom and the ability to be like Killmonger, to be as angry as Killmonger, because he's a king who actually has to be in control of this. It's easy to stand outside and shout and be angry. He's got to weigh everything, and he does that. And Boseman carries that weight so brilliantly. He's got such great stature in this film, and he brings so much. He just brings so much character to this.
I hated it. No, you're making it hard to say things. I agree. I like the fact that you kind of agree with the bad guy. I mean, you know why he can't be 100% right, but it's just a very realistic character, and you don't get that a lot in superhero movies. In terms of, the only thing negative you could ever say, there's a little SJW thing I could do if I really wanted to on it that bothered me a tiny bit, but I'm not going to say because I don't want to piss off people because it's just stupid. And then it kind of dumbs down Captain America and Iron Man, because I mean they're literally sitting on 1 billion Captain America shields, and all of a sudden you just don't care about those characters as much. And in a way, and I shouldn't say that, you still do, but if you really wanted to sit back and think about it, they don't matter nearly as much as they do in the other movies. But at the same time, it's such a, it did what Iron Man did for me. It's a character I don't know about anything, never heard of, never really cared about one way or the other, and it made a movie that's insanely watchable and a lot of fun. And so, I mean, I hold it on a level with Iron Man, with Wonder Woman, with The Dark Knight, all these different one of the first few Spider-Man movies. I don't know, it's that good and it's that much fun. In some ways better. It's funny. You know, everybody's talking with an accent, except for Michael B. Jordan. But even with those accents, there's some really funny characters in this movie. The guy they go to at the end, he's hilarious. And Michael B. Jordan's funny in it when he wants to be. It's just a really, really fun, entertaining.
And the little sister, she's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
She's the king's little sister, but she's a little sister first. You know, it's fantastic.
This is just a very in-your-face movie. In a way, it's part of this Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it stands out by itself far more than any of these other Marvel films. Did I hear at any point anything about the Avengers? No. They're referencing something that happens in Civil War, of course. I mean, the scene is literally in the film as well. And you assume that there will be post-credit scenes that are going to involve this universe as well. But for the most part, you've got a clean slate for Black Panther to be Black Panther in a Black Panther movie. And that's a really great directing choice, and it tells you that Marvel's letting Ryan Coogler make his own film here.
And, you know, it also doesn't raise a lot of those questions about, well, if this is going on, where's Iron Man or where's Captain America? Because it's such a self-contained story and such a well-contained story within Wakanda that it's understandable why they wouldn't be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do a great job of that. And then, God, the thought just left my head. Oh, yeah, it was like Josh was saying, standalone movies. You know, there's a handful of movies that I like a lot in there, and then I just started getting, like Civil War, it just did nothing for me. And there was that scene that everybody talks about where the superheroes are fighting each other. That scene is in this movie where people on the same team are fighting against each other, and it's done so perfectly compared to that airport scene in Civil War that, you know, people love that scene. I think Josh and I are the only two that don't get it.
Civil wrestling match.
Right. Right, when you can see them calling their own spots too, which is ridiculous. But in this, it's so effective and just an amazing, amazing fight scene that matters. I don't know. That was one of the best fight scenes I've seen in comic book movies.
And you've got two characters. all of these characters are given enough screen time. All the supporting characters as well. We're talking about Guriri. I can't remember her first name. She's the general for T'Challa's army, and you care about her because she's given enough screen time where she can develop a little bit. Like, you care that at the end of the film, she has a scene that is very pivotal against somebody she's close to, and the line that she gives out is real powerful because you care about her. You care about Lupita Nyong'o's character, and you want T'Challa to develop that a little bit because you care about her. You care about Shuri because she's not only clearly a genius, she's like the Q of the Wakanda world. I mean, that's a really cool role for a black woman to be playing. That's awesome, right? On top of that, I'm thinking of Angela Bassett even as the queen, the former queen, I should say. You care about her. Forrest Whitaker as the mystical medicine man or something along those lines. It's the same type of role as a medicine man. You care about him because he's got a backstory. There's a reason why he does what he does. Every character has their own motivations, and usually when you have that many motivations, especially in a comic book movie, you don't get enough of it to really care about what they do towards the end of the film, or accept their decisions, or care that they betrayed somebody or something like that. In this case, it all just works really well. The ending, there's a great scene involving the protagonist and antagonist, and then the end kind of comes very quickly after that. There isn't sort of like a really nice rounding to it. So I would say I'm going to give this film like a 94, 95%. Okay, there's that 5% missing that I was saying, like, yeah, rubbery special effects a couple of times with how Black Panther moves and how Killmonger moves. That's it. Okay, and then there's also the way that the film ended. But it's in your face. It bothers to say some of the things that you would never hear out of a superhero movie before. It's important. The characters are developed. It's so fantastic, and I'm glad that it exists. I think I like this just a little bit more than Wonder Woman. It's a good comparison to make because Wonder Woman was sort of a game changer in its own right.
I'll just bring my SJW point up since you kind of got me there.
Okay.
The general's costume, that didn't. Maybe I watched it in 3D and that's what was distracting me. But did that bother you at all?
Are you talking about the traditional African deco?
Talking about the nipples.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice the
maybe
nipples.
it was a 3D thing, but you could totally see your nipples the entire time.
Okay, I wasn't paying
No,
attention.
I
I'm
totally
sorry.
missed that.
Oh, I was paying attention to Lupita Nyong'o managed to have armor towards the end of the film.
No, it was the main costume of the general the entire movie.
It must have been 3D.
It was like a really cold room like the whole time. And I don't know, I was going to make a 3D joke, but apparently it was like distracting me, and that to the point where I was like, really, everything else you got perfect, and you have to do this in that movie.
When I considered the costumes, I was considering the fact that a lot of the deco in this film, including the lettering on screen, is done in such a way it's an African vibe. How many times do we get to see an African vibe not taken as a token production design element of a film, especially a blockbuster? I think that's so important. The vibe of the film in general, including the soundtrack, in which we're hearing T.I. and a number of other rap artists. That are we going to hear these in another Marvel film? We're not. It's going to be like the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack or something majestic and orchestral. It made $220 million, which is extraordinary. It exceeds even their own expectations for the film. It matters to bring this more to the public eye. In my head, in my dreams, I'm expecting that somehow through Black Panther, like, you might be able to get idiots more in line with the idea of a different culture and understanding them a little bit. I'm going too far maybe on this, but it makes me feel good to think that this is successful and might just prevent or get somebody to cross the line. The theater that I saw this in, it was the worst theater experience of my entire life.
A lot of people talking?
Screaming at the theater, at the screen, F-bombs, N-words the whole time. And nobody did anything. And the theater didn't do anything. Someone smoking weed in front of us to the right. No one did anything. The theater, the skinny 16-year-old comes in, looks at it. I can hear it because I'm close enough. Says, "Will you please stop that?" They waved him off. And they did nothing else. As they were about to leave the theater, I, of course, chimed in and said, "Thanks so much for smoking in front of kids. You guys did a great job. Well done." Because you've got hundreds of people in the theater. No one's doing a darn thing. I don't understand what caused the theater to do this. And before anyone thinks about it, these were white people saying these things, okay? Don't concern yourself with whether or not just because it's a movie that involves a lot of Africans and African Americans that I'm labeling anyone in the crowd as an African American. I spoke to a white guy that was smoking the weed. I don't understand why the crowd didn't do anything. It's a combustible type of atmosphere, and the theater did nothing, and the people did nothing. And I'm just like, come on, just get the people that are doing something wrong, get them out, okay? And don't let them ruin something that's actually very positive that's going on here. But worst theater experience of my life. My son was almost traumatized by it. Yeah, I don't see him. But maybe if I look close enough.
I do.
Nipple pictures.
Oh, you see him now? I can see him from here. All the way across the table.
Maybe I don't look for nipples.
there's a
I don't
certain,
know.
like-
I wasn't looking either. I mean,
Well, there's a certain shape to the costume that's kind of like Madonna's cone bra at like a smaller level, and I think there's an element of that to it. But I do think I see what you're saying.
It's not quite the comb bra thing because it's the shape of nipples. I mean, it's kind of more the Batman and Robin type thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's like almost poking through the shit. And I didn't want to make this much of a big deal. It's just kind of one of those things where I'm like,
I was too curious not to look for pictures. So.
The actress,
Danae Guerrero.
Danae, okay. She has such striking facial features.
She is gorgeous.
I'm drawn to her face. I'm drawn to Lupita Nyong'o's face in this movie.
Lupita Nyong'o may be
She's
the
really
most beautiful woman working today.
this movie's full of star-making performers. I mean, hopefully, they all proved five or six people in this movie proved to be stars. I mean, Michael B. Jordan already kind of is, but him and Chadwick Boseman should skyrocket to more movies like this. I mean,
for sure.
But the General is probably my favorite character in the movie, not because of the nipples, but she was such a badass character. Lupita Nyong'o is kind of already a star, but I feel like, it's like watching Ocean's 11 or Iron Man, where you have, Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey Jr.,
Daniel Kaluuya is in this, and he's
Right.
in this movie filming it before Get Out is part of the public
Right.
consciousness.
And he just looks like a star on the screen. A lot of that's me bringing that from Get Out. But still, I'm curious. One thing I'm a little worried about is when you watch, I haven't seen Scarlett Johansson do a whole lot. I haven't seen Robert Downey Jr. do a whole lot since they've been in this Avengers world. Hopefully, I mean, obviously Michael B. Jordan can do more because, no spoiler alert. But everybody else is still involved in this universe. How on call are they going to have to be for the rest of these Avenger movies?
It really is like being on a TV show, really. I mean, the level of commitment, the number of things you have to do as part of it is kind of like it being on TV, really.
And that's the only thing I don't like about it is that I want to see, them off doing their own, because these are all character actors to an extent. That's what they've been reduced to a lot of times.
I said, if I'm happy to see Chadwick Boseman take this role and stop playing every black guy in history. He's played
Jackie
James
Robinson,
Brown.
Thurgood
He's
Marshall.
played Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall. It's enough with the biopics, dude. Like, there are other black actors who can do this.
I was surprised to see that.
Not that he's not great. He's great in Marshall. The other two, not so much. But
And he's not the problem.
No, it's
necessarily,
just-
But the movies are not. I haven't seen the James Brown, but 42 is awful, and it's not his fault at all.
This is
Harrison Ford's. Not his fault either. It's not his fault either. Go ahead, Josh.
Chadwick Boseman is over 40 years old.
Really?
He's 43.
Wow.
I seriously, watching Black Panther, I'm thinking, he's got to be in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. I mean, he's got a long career ahead of him. He's been in stuff for quite a while now, actually. He's mostly TV actor and got big breaks in those biopics. The 42 movie was his big break, and maybe that's what was available to him because he was so good at impersonating people. If you think about it, the man is from South Carolina, and he's doing an accent from a fictional country in the middle of Africa. I mean, okay, and pretty convincingly, I might add. So that's not bad.
Oh yeah, he's phenomenal. It's just such like my son loves it. Afterwards, he was asking who I like better, Spider-Man or Black Panther. He goes, I like Black Panther. He asked me that, and I didn't answer. I asked him what he liked better, and he goes, I like Black Panther better, but I think I'm more like Spider-Man. I'm like, I'm waiting for him to go because I'm white and they're brown. He goes, because I can climb really well.
So you're projecting race upon him, and he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about, Dad.
Hope for the future.
Yeah, but in terms of, I don't think it's going to change anybody's mind. I think you're going to have some people going, well, it's a Marvel movie, that's why. Then I think you're going to have the people that just aren't going to go see it because their mind's already made up.
That said, it's impossible for us to estimate how this must feel to somebody our age who's black. Because our age, because us, I mean, we've been through this for years. We could go back to the 80s seeing people up on the big screen who look like us and doing this. They can go back to Wesley Snipes, I mean, in terms of superheroes.
And in terms of a whole, I mean, the only movie I can think of that kind of had a mass appeal that was largely a black cast is like Friday. I mean, there's not a lot of movies.
Boys in the Hood, I suppose, but
that's
not mass appeal per se.
But even that is more of a direct, it's more for a certain select people. That I don't know. Everybody I know has seen Friday.
This is such a wide character, such a broad character in terms of its appeal. It's not the characters that they kind of get stuck with for the most part. This a side player here or characters in prison, characters who are in the hood, that kind of stuff. This is such a big, broad thing that it's got to be heartening to see that finally, and to see so many black people portrayed with such compassion and power.
But we still need more. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
We've named 2.5, 3 movies.
That said, the thing I keep seeing on Twitter is now everybody keeps going, okay, well, Ryan Coogler now direct this black superhero and this black superhero. Like, well, you know what? Ryan Coogler can do anything. He doesn't have to necessarily keep it to one thing.
Right. I want to see.
Let's not take everybody and put them in this one box now, because they've just got out of the box and we're now putting them back into another box.
I wanted to see him kind of do I don't want to say Favreau because he's a way better director, but go back and then do another Fruitvale Station or Creed or something smaller, and then go back and forth and do both things. And I'd like to see Denis Villeneuve do the same thing. He just seems to keep getting bigger, which scares me. But, you get big, small, go back, mix it up, because that's the way to last forever and really be successful. And those are probably my 2 guys right now that I like the best. I mean, obviously Creed is an impossible movie to make right, and he did. Mm-hmm. And that alone is just impressive. I just you need to get to the point where there's enough movies like Black Panther where we can, I think, what did Chris Rock say when the Bears and Colts played in the Super Bowl? He had the first time 2 black coaches were there. He goes, I want there to be enough black coaches where I don't like one of them. And it really should be, it should be way more. Still, you look at the Marvel movies and it's like a lot of white people. It's just this one. And then
as a reflection of the comics from whence they came,
right,
of course.
Correct. But yeah, it is a phenomenal movie, and I should say everybody go see it, but you already did, so we could have spoiled it and it wouldn't matter.
Do we want to do a spoiler bit at the end? Because there's a couple things I wanted to bring up that we can't.
He wins.
Yeah, Black Panther will return in Avengers Infinity War, as the film tells us.
Yeah, we can, instead of Flickchart, after the credits, we'll talk about Black Panther some more.
Then we can send our audience into another room.
Oh, she hasn't seen it?
No.
We have a live audience.
She hasn't seen a lot of the Marvel movies. She has prerequisites.
Put your top 5. Who's your top 5?
Top five. The cast of the Black Panther, excluding Tolkien characters.
Or token characters. Oh.
Tolkien alum, I mean. Jason from New Mexico said, I have not seen Black Pant yet, so it doesn't make the list. You said Black Pant because Josh's ticket stub said
Black Pant.
He had number 5, The Princess Diaries 2. Number 4, The Adventures of Cinderella's Daughter. 3, Big Hero 6. 2, The Ambulance. 1, Mallrats. Which I don't know who he's talking about, but Cousin Jeff had Captain America Civil War. What's Love Got to Do with It? Get Out, The Force Awakens, Rogue One. Uncle Jeff has in alphabetical order 12 Years a Slave, Music of the Heart, Get Out, The Crying Game, Aquila and the Bee. Do we have anywhere any?
There's nothing on Instagram that I can see.
I had not seen Black Panther when I saw it, so I have number 1 Creed, 2 Get Out. I'd probably put Black Panther at 3 and Sicario at 4. But then going through Forrest Whitaker's IMDb page, it's like I could have put 1 billion movies on here. So I just kind of wanted to. I mean, he's one of those guys that probably, had he been starting out now, he's been one of the great character actors. A lot of bad movies too, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of good movies there. And same with Angela Bassett. More bad movies than good on hers, but still, both. But that was my list. Josh?
You missed a little part there, Bob. Anyways,
I had Angela Bassett's character work. Lots of good movies on her IMDb page, except Contact.
Except Contact?
Hey,
No.
At least I didn't say except Star Wars Rogue One or whatever with Forrest Whitaker. Could have.
Right.
Anyway.
My number 5. I'm not going to push Black Panther into my top 5. To be honest, I like it a lot, and it's hard to say though, but it's true. All 5 of these I like a little bit more. 5 Creed and 4 Get Out. 3 Love Actually. That's the Martin Freeman connection there. 2 Contact or Malcolm X with Angela Bassett, and number 1 Lord of the Rings, depending on which film you're looking at. Andy Serkis is really great as Gollum. He's actually really good in Black Panther too. But
I would say Andy Serkis is actually best as Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies, because I got War for the Planet of the Apes as my number 5. It's that good. Then Get Out, number 4, Malcolm X, number 3. I actually did put Black Panther on my list at number 2, and number 1 is Arrival, because Forrest Whitaker's in Arrival.
Oh, yeah, that was the thing. He's in so many movies that.
I love Arrival. I can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly not make it my number 1.
I'd have made it my number 2 probably if I'd specifically picked a Forrest Whitaker movie. Early Man.
Yes, Early Man, the latest from Aardman, with the voice of Eddie Redmayne as Doug. The story goes that this group of cavemen are living in this idyllic place in the midst of, basically it's the last place where there's any grass or trees after this giant meteor hit. And their ideal is upset when some guy from the Bronze Age stumbles upon them and wants to take over their space, and it kicks them out and starts mining it. They want to get it back, and the only way they can get it back is by challenging the Bronze Age guys to a soccer game. Soccer being a game that their ancestors had actually created, but then they forgot they ever played. Again, I don't know why soccer is in this. I think it's because Brits like soccer, I guess. There's nothing wrong with this movie. There's just nothing particularly good about this movie. There's nothing wrong with it. It's amusing. It's classically Aardman. It's gentle, pleasant. It's there. The claymation is incredible, as it always is. The characters are nice. It's a sweet movie. In this day and age, I find it weird that I'm saying bad things about it. I don't want to say bad. There's nothing bad to say about it. I just don't remember it hardly anymore. I kind of have a memory of seeing it, but it's almost already gone. It's a good movie. It's an entirely forgettable movie.
As a plug for our bonus podcast, this is kind of how we talked about The Greasy Strangler.
They're very similar, yes.
Gentle, pleasant. Well made.
That's just the thing. I expect a little bit more from Aardman on this front. Being a big fan of Chicken Run and some of the Wallace and Gromit stuff, the Shaun the Sheep TV series and the film, which was really, really fantastic for me at least. I even like Flushed Away. This claymation style and the British humor that goes with it, it's a good combination. And so wanting to see this, sans Child, I might add, was like, oh yeah, that's a drop in the park. I'm sure I'm going to like this. I have no idea why this movie has soccer in it, to the point where it drew me out almost completely, despite some funny moments. Or the movie calls itself Early Man. I remember seeing a trailer, and I don't remember seeing anything in the trailer about soccer.
Well, here's the thing with soccer. Soccer is such a simple and silly game that it was probably even the morons from the beginning of time could figure soccer.
Oh, sure. They just developed this to the point where the Bronze Age team is called Real Bronzio. Like Real. Oh, I get it. You've got leagues already, and you've got cards based on these people. No, the movie's called Early Man. You've got caveman versus slightly more civilized people, but this movie doesn't really have much of a direction other than setting it up to have very simple lessons taught to children against the guise of soccer, which that makes for a very gentle and pleasant experience to the point of me being disinterested. And that's the first time that's happened for an Aardman movie. And that doesn't mean that it's bad. That just means that I'm very disappointed by Nick Park and Tim Lord. I think his name's Tim or Phil, one of the two.
Was this the movie with in the trailer where they see sliced bread and someone goes,
Yes, that's the best thing since
ever.
Ever.
That is the most gentle and pleasant joke ever made, I think.
That's just the thing. A lot of more times, though, me, who sees things like puns as the greatest thing ever, I should be 100% on board. And this one doesn't deliver on the simple jokes.
It's just
like me.
It makes sense, but it's just kind of harmless.
It's amusing. Every like all these characters, all the situations in this movie, they're amusing. You can smile throughout this entire movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. I say that like it's a bad thing, but I mean, like when you're thinking about, I think this movie for me, I liked it more than Josh did. I think it suffers because there is Pixar. Pixar exists, and Pixar creates masterpieces every time. We're completely spoiled by Pixar and what they've done for nearly 20 years now. I think, or over 20 years now. We're so spoiled by that when something like this comes along that's amusing and pleasant and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, it suffers because we've been moved deeply by animation. And when we see something like this, like, yeah, okay.
I try and operate it within its own world. When I talked about the Lego movies, each one, including the Lego Batman movie, which I enjoyed quite a bit, I was talking about the early days of Lego and how they had a specific attitude about it. It was slapstick humor, puns, that kind of thing, silly little jokes, and using Lego as the backdrop for that. Aardman has got that same motif of simple British humor, silly situations, bad jokes, and claymation that's very well rendered. And this one just doesn't fall on those lines. I took to thinking about how they made the Croods, or I think, no, DreamWorks made the Croods, but I think it's the same team behind it, writing-wise. And it's almost as if they used all of the backdrop for the Croods, because they're like, stuff from Early Man. We can make like that using the crude stuff that we didn't use, all of the matte paintings and stuff like that. We can use that and throw it in there with soccer. We got ourselves a February movie, and it just seems a little lame.
Samson is a PureFlix take on the story of Samson, which is the strongman, the Jewish strongman. His story is that he's got these things. He's powerful. He was imbued with strength by God. So he's a big muscle dude, played by a guy named Taylor James. And for weeks, I thought this was Taylor Lautner. Just looking at the poster I thought it was Taylor Lautner. I did. I'm sorry, I did. It's not. It's Taylor James. So my confusion makes a little sense. Although this guy's much bigger than Taylor Lautner.
Adam Sandler's got Taylor Lautner busy.
Good. Keep him. Taylor James isn't bad. I gotta say this up front. He's not bad. He's actually and I think he's benefiting from my comparisons to the guys in 1715 or 1517, whatever the hell it was. By that comparison, he looks like he's a fucking Marvel superhero in comparison, because he's got a gregariousness to him. He's got a charm to him. And so and of course compare this to, of course, all other PureFlix movies, which are also populated by shitty actors. He is so much better than the other actors in the PureFlix universe. So I can definitely appreciate him a lot more, and it makes me like this movie in a way I don't think it's a very good movie, but I like it enough. Basically, he's the judge in his group. The judge is the one who is imbued by God to judge on behalf of his people, so he can act in a way that is seeking justice. His people are being enslaved by the Philistines, and they're calling upon him. He doesn't want to be the judge. He doesn't want to be violent. He doesn't want to take vengeance, and so his people are enslaved. And occasionally he'll fight back, but mostly he's kind of lazy and chasing girls. He's going to marry this Philistine girl. When she's killed, he decides to turn things around, and he starts to fight back a little bit. But it takes a while, and he's very resistant to fighting, and it gets very irritating after a while that he's taking so much time to decide whether or not to fight back. Delilah is barely a character in this movie. She's basically like a 90s movie femme fatale. That's basically, it's such a dull presentation of that character who in other movies is so much more interesting and so much more charismatic. Here they spend so much time with the dull Philistine girl that he might marry that I'm like, where's Delilah? I just want to see. Like, I was dreaming of Hedy Lamarr the entire time that I was watching this.
And instead you got Rebecca Romaine.
This movie is it's not as terrible as the rest of the Pure Flix movies, and that's pretty much the nicest thing I can say about it. And Taylor James, not a bad actor.
Yeah, I read your review. It was like, this shouldn't be this, or I don't remember how you worded it. It was something like, this doesn't deserve to be this good, or not,
Something
or
like
the
that.
other way around, or
Right.
something like a backhanded compliment. A compliment nonetheless.
That's all I have are backhanded compliments for this movie.
I did see the Pure Flix trailer for God's Not Dead 3.
Oh, man, does that look awful, doesn't it? Ooh.
Good actors in it.
Name
Oh, yeah,
him?
it looks awful. I don't know their names. They're on TV a lot, though. Wasn't one of them in Josh's movie?
My movie?
Yeah. What is that Cusack movie that love story?
What, Must Love Dogs?
Yeah. Serendipity.
I hate that movie.
Serendipity.
Oh, John Corbett.
Yeah,
John Corbett's in
He's
it.
in the trailer. I like
He's
John Corbett.
moved a lot into that realm of religious movies, unfortunately.
He belongs there.
I like him as a backup guy and who doesn't do much.
Backup
Except for in
guy.
Serendipity.
And the premise of this latest God's Not Dead movie is basically that atheists are now so evil that they've burned down the church. Like, that's how evil atheists are now. They're burning down churches.
Oh, okay.
They need to set it in like
I won't
Norway
say
or
anything after that.
where they actually do that.
In the death metal scene in Norway. You check out last podcast on the left for that. That is an amazing episode on the death metal in Norway.
Last podcast.
It's really awesome.
I love reading. I'm not that I approve of them burning down churches, but it is fascinating.
Well,
that they
and when you
really-
find out why they were doing it, it's darkly comic.
right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
Our undisputed classic this week is Samson and Delilah from 1949.
Yes, a far better take on the Samson story. Victor Mature playing Samson this time, and Hedy Lamarr is Delilah. And she's actually given kind of a real character to play and have a real point and purpose in the story. But again, it's the same story. Samson is the strong man. He's the judge of his town. He's lazy. He's a girl chaser. That's really what he's more interested in. He wants to marry Angela Lansbury and her sister.
Who doesn't?
She looks great in this
I
movie.
know.
Hedy Lamarr is Delilah, who in this version Delilah is her sister, is Angela Lansbury's character's sister. She wants Samson, does Delilah, but she can't have him. He keeps rejecting her. She keeps getting more and more angry and bitter. And
And he just, the way he rejects her just is ridiculous. Like from the get go, it's just like, I want her. But yeah, what's going on? I killed a lion. I'm going with her.
there's so many great scenes in this. Like that, the lion fighting scene is really terrific, and I think it's enhanced for me by the story behind it, where Victor Mature. First of all, Cecil B. DeMille directed this. He hated Victor Mature. Hated him so much. Victor Mature is the worst actor that he's ever worked with, according to Cecil B. DeMille. And Mature would not go near the lion at all. So in the end, he wrestled a lion rug. So the close-ups, when you see Victor Mature, he's wrestling a lion rug.
It's almost Saturday Night Live level of.
Meanwhile, there was an actual lion on set that had no teeth. And so the stuntman is actually wrestling a real lion with no teeth or claws to make it look real. And Victor Mature wouldn't even go near that one. He was like, nope, I'm not getting gummed to death.
It's not a very mature decision.
It was still an amazing scene nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, considering the way they carried it off, it actually works pretty well. This movie actually is, of the classics, I mean, we've had so many disappointing classics this far this year. It's actually among my favorites, right behind maybe, obviously, Foxy Brown is well above the rest of the classics for me so far.
I kind of like this on a, what's the word? Mystery science theater kind of level. Because I definitely can see how great it would have been in this time, but it is kind of fun to watch on that riff tracks type level. It's like watching Saturday Night Live sketches, because that's the kind of this level of technology they have now. And I don't know, I had way more fun with it than I thought I would or probably should have. Mm-hmm. Josh?
Oh, I didn't watch it.
You didn't watch the classic?
No, most of the time I do. I mean, there was a time, of course, where like you and I would be watching the classic and Bob would be watching the theater movies and stuff like that and not necessarily check out the classic. And I thought to myself, when given the option of watching Star Wars A New Hope or Early Man or The Greasy Strangler, I said to myself, yeah, all three of those other options sound better than the 1949 Cecil B. DeMille movie. And so I just never got to the point where I watched it. Maybe I'll go back and check it out, of course. But I was like, I'm not interested in Samson this week as much as I'm trying.
If you get half an hour, get to the lion fight. And I'm saying that kind of as a joke, but for real, 1949, they fight a lion. I mean,
sure.
Pretty impressive. Granted, you can tell when he's fighting a rug versus when he's fighting a lion, which makes it hilarious. But when he's fighting a lion, he's fighting a lion. Yeah. I mean, sure, he's got no teeth or claws, but it's pretty amazing.
It makes me wonder why in Gladiator, why Ridley Scott wouldn't find a toothless, clawless tiger.
Way better than that. I'm not kidding. In 1949, way more realistic, other than when you see him running out the rug. I mean, it is amazing. It is both awesome for what they did and then amazing for how stupid it is that he's rolling around the rug. But
it's arguably because it's rather cruel to remove a tiger's teeth and claws, which they did to do this. That's probably why they're not allowed to do that now. There's another, I don't know, and again, there's a lot of questions about who said this. There's some say there was a film critic who said it in a review. IMDb attributes the quote to Groucho Marx when asked about how he thought. Cecil B. DeMille asked Groucho what he thought of the movie. He said, "I'm not sure I like a movie where your leading man's tits are bigger than your leading ladies."
Oh. Well, speaking of that, I'm looking at the posters for Samson and Delilah is wearing something so ridiculous to have on a poster. Like, you've got to wear more clothing. Like, okay, maybe that's the way that it was in the time of the Philistines and whatnot. Okay, fine. Maybe that's what it was. But I'm sitting there looking at the poster and Victor Mature grabbing her almost on her boob on the poster. Like, jeez, for whatever reason, it really rubs me the wrong way. Like, you can make her look sexy and she's sexy all by herself. And, of course, all those posters are very aggrandized. I get that. But, man, it just it hurts
on this
me.
podcast, I've complained about seeing nipples through a shirt. Now Josh is complaining about a beautiful lady wearing too little clothing. What is wrong with us?
I don't know. That's a good question.
On the bonus cast, I'm bitching about a guy's dick. So
we've covered all the body parts.
I mean, it is surprisingly watchable. I mean, that's all I can. I mean, you still have the old guy with the young girl thing from that day and age. But
yeah, there's also. I mean, there's still that. We are talking about 1949, so we're still talking about that era of the stage actors who are projecting everything that we say, and that weird forced, strange way. That's. I think that's the reason why so many old movies can't hang around in this day and age. Is that it's so unnatural to listen to people talk that way.
Well, and then, I mean, I've said it too many times already within this segment, but it looks like a Saturday Night Live sketch. So the fact that you see that every Saturday on top of that doesn't help either. You can't not think of Saturday Night Live when you watch this movie. Specifically the wrestling.
That said, I would watch this ahead of Burnt Offerings. I would watch this ahead of, like...
Oh, it's fun.
I would watch this before I'd watch Heat again.
I would not do that.
No.
But I would watch this with Josh if you ever got bored and wanted to come over. It's that level. Like, I think we would have fun watching it. It's that kind of movie.
I think Victor Mature, I remember him from the movie The Robe. This is back in the time where my mom was interested in showing me a lot of biblical epics, including Jesus of Nazareth, the TV series directed by Franco Zeffirelli, and The Robe and Ten Commandments and The Greatest Story Ever Told. Oh man, that was a rough time, man. But I remember Victor Mature so much because he looked so odd to me. And in a time of very grand leading men, very handsome men, Cary Grant, etc. Then you have this odd looking dude with the name of Victor Mature, and I think that's part of the reason that I was like, oh, a movie with that dude in it from The Robe. Yeah, I'll watch Star Wars again.
Something about his name. As a kid, I always thought I'm never going to watch a Victor Mature movie because that sounds like homework. He sounds like one of those stuffy English actors.
Absolutely.
Well, and again,
that was just child me talking.
I'm kind of more.
That doesn't matter to me. I say that all the time.
I kind of feel like I'm more laughing at this movie than I am enjoying it for being good. Because he kind of comes off dickish at times in this movie. He just looks like a dick the whole time. So, I don't know. It's
a complete pussy. Like, that's what DeMille said about Victor Mature, is that he was a complete pussy. And there's a story on the IMDb page about him calling him out because he wouldn't come out of his trailer for a long time. And finally just he got on a billboard and called him a fucking pussy.
Where's Heston when I need him?
He kind of comes off.
He wanted Burt Lancaster.
Okay.
Burt Lancaster was up for the role, and it turns out that DeMille is a conservative, and Burt Lancaster at the time was a liberal, and they couldn't get along politically. And so he decided to pass on Lancaster, and then he regretted it every day for the rest of his 3-year career.
He kind of comes off.
He only had 3 movies left after this.
In the movie. Like, I mean, it's almost like he made him like that guy who talks tough but really isn't, even though he just looks kind of like a pussy in this movie too. I don't know. It's just at some point, just at least watch the first half an hour and turn it off if you want. It's worth it, even if it's I don't know.
And it is on YouTube.
Yes,
that's where I watched it.
Oh, really? I was about ready to pay for it.
It's like in 13 parts on YouTube illegally.
Get to the line.
Okay, then.
Just watch the line for your own enjoyment. No, I promise you'll enjoy
I know
it.
exactly what you mean.
Number 18 in 1988. Squeezed and pulled and hurt my neck in 1988.
Squeezed and pulled and hurt your neck in 1988.
In 1988, nothing came out. 1998, I don't know what came out. We'll find that out in 10 years. But, so we're not going to do anything for 1988. It's the podcast over.
What is next week?
Next week, we have 6 different possible 1988 movies, if that's what you're referring to. We have Frantic, starring Harrison Ford and Raul Julia.
So Bob hates that already. Go ahead.
Right. Hairspray. A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon, which I remember the poster so very well, stars River Phoenix. I plan on finally getting to that.
Hairspray, a John Waters movie.
The next week's classic, The Greasy Strangler.
Oh, no.
That movie is not going away.
And Hairspray has Divine in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Also, Taffin, starring Pierce Brosnan, a movie called Apprentice to Murder, and Bloodsport, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I'm finally going to watch a Van Damme movie.
Josh has never seen Bloodsport.
No, or a Van Damme movie.
Because Josh didn't own a TV. He just watched movies.
You don't understand the joy of Kumite.
Whatever that might be. You're right. I don't know.
And
I was a Seagal man myself.
And if I'm not mistaken, some hot shot jokes might start making sense too. Bloodsport.
Sure.
More hot shots part 2. I'm not mistaken. Or I could be confusing another John Van Damme movie, too. Theater-wise, Annihilation. Natalie Portman movie comes out, which means our classic's going to be Black Swan, the movie we've been kicking down the road for 2 years now.
Almost as longer than Boogie Nights.
Yeah. And then Game Night, for sure. Those two are, well, I shouldn't say for sure. They say nationwide releases. I'm
There's
assuming they'll come in.
Yeah, there's also a movie called Every Day that is apparently coming out next week, which I don't remember that one.
It looks like a romance based on the font. Seriously.
Play Misty for me looked like a comedy based off of the font.
That is true.
It did have quotes around it, too, which made it look like a bit of a... Yeah, I see what you mean.
So our top 5 is going to be movies with games in them. You can kind of figure that. We came up with a bunch of them. Sean didn't like any of them. but
I was thinking like board games. Is that what we're talking about?
Board games. I mean, there's Clue. There's
Clue will be on my list.
The Game with David Fincher, even though I don't really like that movie.
The Game will be on my list.
Okay, we did talk about the trailer for Every Day. And maybe this will bring it back to you. A shy teenager falls for someone who transforms into another person every day.
Oh, that's a neat idea. That's not going to work.
So it's young adulty type stuff. Yeah.
Very popular novel.
Yeah, that's great idea. That's not going to work. If you want to know what Sean thinks early, go to our Facebook page and find his reviews. But yeah, that's what we're doing next week. For this week, before I end, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. I will start with our key grip, Charlie Messing. Our character actors, Christina and Josh.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Our special effects designer, Corey.
May the Force be with you.
Our associate producer, Jason from New Mexico.
Bullshit, artist. Am not. Bullshit.
And our 2 movie stars, Uncle Jeff and Dave Severs.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
If you want to be a Patreon supporter, ihatecritics.net/Patreon. That's the best way to help support the podcast. Like I mentioned at the top of the podcast, we started bringing the book back up. Video is right around the corner, I promise. Probably in early to mid-March. So a lot of things in the pipeline. There we go. There's a better word for than canon.
I thought that's what you were going to get
That's
to.
what I was
eventually,
trying, but I didn't want to waste a bunch of dead air to get there.
We only got a couple of weeks to start our camera diet. You know,
as soon as he said mid-March, I'm like, oh, that's faster than I thought. I got to get my tooth fixed before then, too.
When I say mid-March, that means like May.
Okay, we're good then.
I said we were going to do a bonus episode every month. We're mid-February. We did our first bonus episode. So, and then, Patreon gets to help us out with the bonus episodes. We did do the Greasy Strangler on this episode. And I know Jason has more. I know Corey has some more. So bring those to the table as well. And Bandcamp, the episode will be there to purchase for $1. iTunes, if you want us to read a review on the air, we'd love to get it. We'll read it, and it'll help us move up the charts. It's really important to get us there to compete with the other movie podcasts. Otherwise, stick around for after the credits for not Flick Chart, but Black Panther spoilers. Good night.
That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
And we're the 3 best friends that anybody could have. We're the 3 best friends that anyone could have. We're the 3 best friends that anyone can have. And we'll never, ever, 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 ever leave each other. We're the best 3 friends that anybody can have. I mean the 3 best friends that anybody can have. That's right, the 3 best friends.
Black Panther spoilers.
There's a couple of things I wanted to bring up because, obviously we're talking about Wakanda, and specifically the mid-credit scene is quite a funny moment, but it raises a lot of questions. And that is, at the end, we've got T'Challa coming around to the idea of sharing Wakanda with the rest of the world, and I was thinking maybe this might be he might have a more measured approach, like he might be. you might hold back a little bit, but no, he's giving everything. It's just all going out there. And one of the things that occurred to me was there was going to be a backlash as much as, and I love that idea. I love this is smart because this is going to play into other stories, especially within the Black Panther universe specifically. Martin Freeman at one point is shot in the back and badly injured, and they have the ability in Wakanda to actually fix this spinal injury. And I can only imagine that once this gets out, that, wait a minute, all this time you've been able to fix spinal injuries? There's going to be a lot of people who are very upset about that.
Yeah, incorrectly, but yes.
Yeah. And so that's an interesting aspect. And the other aspects of the ways in which that vibranium and the use of vibranium will be able to improve the world. There's going to be a lot of people going, you could do this the whole time and you didn't? Like, I hope that somebody's smart enough to make that a major plot in Black Panther 2.
For sure. I'm thinking that Infinity War might even beat that.
It'll have to be in all the Avenger movies, too.
Yeah, especially with the imminent attack of Thanos upon the world, the vibranium and the use of vibranium for armor shield. We already see in the trailer for Infinity War, Captain America's got a new shield made out of vibranium. The weaponry and the ships that Wakanda have got to be involved in this somehow. So that mid-credit scene, to me, seems like the standard prelude to it, not so much an
Sean
announcement.
brought up a good point before we recorded, that in the trailer, Boseman's character, the Black Panther, says, get him another shield or something like that.
Yeah.
And you'll say it better than me.
Who is he talking to? Because you're sitting on the biggest thing of vibranium in the world. Just make him a new shield. Who is he talking to?
We're hoping it plays properly in the movie.
He's talking to somebody who in Wakanda who could just go, yeah, or Shuri, I could make him a shield that's even better than the one he had.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
But I don't know. I mean, it seems weird. If he's talking to Tony Stark or he's talking to the other side of Civil War, going, give this man his shield, why didn't you just make him a new one?
I mean, I think another thing that with the vibranium is, yes, it can make the world a better place, but it can also make it a worse place. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's definitely something, and they kind of already deal with that with Stark Industries, of what he has to do. I mean, this is on a bigger level, but it's kind of that same story, which I'm sure they're going to go there as well, which is part of why Michael B. Jordan's idea wouldn't have worked. But I don't know. Oh, he dies, by the way, Michael B. Jordan. So.
in a way that is a really poignant.
Yeah, it's
cool
an incredible death.
Oh yeah, and I at first thought it was gonna be like another Bucky situation where is he gonna come along and be his little buddy in the Avenger movies? But no, he kind of makes the offer more or less.
Yeah,
but yeah, the hell of a death scene.
It was a really great moment for Michael B. Jordan when he says no to that. And it's a definitive no. It's not you can't save me. It's that I'm not going to let you even try.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've liked him since like Friday Night Lights. And then the fact he goes on to do Creed, and I still haven't seen Fruitvale Station, or whatever that's called. But,
just stay away from the Fantastic Four, Michael.
I saw that. But again,
we all saw that together.
He's not the problem. It was just a studio problem.
No, I think he's one of my favorite actors working today. Not only do I like the thought of younger actor that has the ability to play a lot of roles like this over time in the genre, but not just genre stuff, but he's very, very convincing. Whatever he's done so far, like I liked him a lot in Chronicle. He's the best part of that movie for me. And I mean, Dane DeHaan came out of that one for me too, and he hasn't gone on to that kind of success that I thought he might have as a younger, brooding Jack Nicholson. Michael B. Jordan is way more skilled than Dane DeHaan.
He keeps getting to make movies for whatever reason.
Yeah, but then they just remove his voice from certain movies.
Yeah, I mean, watching that, I know we're in the spoiler part, but watching this is like, watching Inside Llewyn Davis or The Most Violent Year, where it's like you have like like Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain, and then you throw in Adam Driver and Inside Llewyn Davis. You have these great actors all working together. All of them should be stars and can be and will be. That was kind of how this movie was for me. I've liked Michael B. Jordan the most out of all these, largely due to Creed, but then obviously Chadwick Boseman. I don't know. I want to see more. I would like to see it outside of the genres, to be honest with you. But I want to see more, starring roles with these guys because I don't know, the creativity there that could be just fantastic. That's how much I like all of them. Anything else?
I was thinking, nothing spoiler-wise, but I was thinking the way that Black Panther moved in comics and the one animated film that I saw him in, and in Civil War. The best part of Civil War is Black Panther and the scene in which he's chasing Bucky and trying to catch him and whatnot. The way that Black Panther moves is different than any of the Marvel characters. We actually didn't see a whole lot of that type of movement in this movie. There's a lot of hand-to-hand combat and a lot of his suit absorbing things and reflecting it back upon his attackers. So there wasn't a lot of Black Panther movement. There's one scene, of course, where it's a chase scene involving Ulysses Claw, but other than that, get a lot of the same type of movement, and it's unique to Black Panther, and I was just hoping for a little more of that.
Yeah, but it makes sense why it wasn't in this movie too. I guess
it's more of like a get Wakanda set up, defend it, that kind of thing.
Well, and in two of the fights, he didn't have Black Panther powers too.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
And this isn't an origin story either. That was what was kind of neat as well. This just picks up where Civil War left off. I mean, there's a little bit of an origin there, but they don't. It's not the whole movie, which I enjoyed quite a bit that they didn't do that.
Yeah, and speaking of Civil War. The last end credit scene that we get, there's only two of them, and it involves what appears to be a remote village outside of Wakanda, or perhaps within the kingdom, but outside of the main city. Involves Bucky and not Captain America for whatever reason. I fully expected Cappy to be in one of those huts. I fully expected him to be the one that they woke up, but I think it's setting up a moment in which we'll see Captain perish and Bucky take over the mantle of Captain America. It happened in the comics. There's no reason for it to not happen in the films.
I thought this was the most needless of the closing credit scenes. Like, what was the point of this?
Honestly, I think it's something that helps you think later in Infinity War when Cappy is going to perish, in my opinion, that you see Bucky like, I've got a fresh lease on life. I'm no longer tied to the Winter Soldier, okay? And look at what I have to look forward to in life. And he's going to be a very important character because his arm's going to be made of vibranium. I mean, he's the morality of Captain America, of Stephen Rogers, but with a bionic arm and possibly the shield too, because he would take up that shield. I'm seeing it differently in that it's setting up Bucky to be a more important character going forward.
I think part of the problem with it for me is I was disappointed that this was Bucky. Like I was just so like, really, Bucky gets the last thing we see in this movie is Bucky?
Because he's that important, I think.
I guess, but. Yeah, he doesn't feel all that important now.
Sure.
But weird, Bucky, the guy who plays Bucky, is kind of one of the few guys who hasn't gone on to be a star.
Oh yeah, and he's not going to, I don't think.
And
honestly.
that's a bad sign for him taking over Captain America's reign. I don't know. I mean, literally everybody, even
he's got plenty of time to build that up. He's got 2 movies coming up that he could become that, but. It depends on how they play him.
But even Hawkeye and Falcon are stars,
Sure.
Anthony Mackie and what's his name?
Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner.
They're bigger names than Sebastian Stan.
The point I don't know his name at all.
Even though you liked him at I, Tonya.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know it was him. And he was outshined by Margot Robbie and what's her name?
Allison Janney.
Allison Janney. Oh. Anything else? All right, yeah. We'll see you next week.